She said her ex should walk her down the aisle, so I invited his wife to plan our wedding. None of us were ready for what she found. I used to think love was supposed to feel steady, like standing on solid ground. With Madison, it felt like that at first. She had this way of speaking that made ordinary words sound like promises. "You make me feel safe," she'd whisper, tracing her fingers along my wrist. I believed her, every single time. We got engaged on a rainy Thursday night. Nothing grand, just us, takeout boxes, and the tiny diamond ring I'd spent months saving for. She cried when I asked. "Of course, Jake," she said, voice shaking. "You're my calm." That night, I thought I'd never need anything else. A month later, our living room was buried in wedding magazines and color samples. Madison was in her element, cross-legged on the couch, highlighter in hand, eyes glowing like she was solving a mystery. "What do you think about emerald green?" she asked, waving a swatch in front of me. I grinned. "It's beautiful. You'd make a paper bag look like a designer dress." She laughed, a sound that still managed to twist something inside me. "You always say that." "Because it's true." She tilted her head. "You're too good to me." "Or just stupidly in love," I said, smiling. Her eyes softened. "Don't ever stop being that way." For a while, we talked about flowers, guest lists, the band. It felt simple. Easy. Every decision made us sound like a team. Until she paused, biting the end of her pen. "Jake," she said quietly, "can I ask you something a little unconventional?" I looked up. "Sure." "What if," she said, stretching the word like she was afraid of it, "we made the wedding more about emotional growth than tradition?" I frowned. "Emotional growth?" "Yeah," she said, her eyes lighting up. "Like, a celebration of who we've become. Not just two people joining lives, but two souls acknowledging their journeys. You know?" "Sounds poetic," I said slowly. "But what does that mean in practice?" She laughed nervously. "I don't know yet. Maybe something symbolic. Like breaking old patterns. Showing that we're not defined by our past relationships." I forced a smile. "Sure. As long as it's still a wedding and not a therapy session." She giggled and swatted my arm. "You're impossible." But there was something behind that laugh, something she was hiding. I couldn't name it then. I just remember thinking how easily she changed the subject, how her voice brightened a little too fast. She stood and wrapped her arms around my neck. "You trust me, right?" "Of course." "Then promise me something," she whispered. "No matter what ideas I bring up for this wedding, you'll keep an open mind." "Okay?" I hesitated. "That sounds dangerous." "Come on, I'm serious." Her tone softened. "This wedding, it's important to me. I want it to mean something deeper than just rings and vows." "I get that," I said. "But deeper how?" "You'll see," she said, smiling. "Just, let me plan it my way." I stared at her for a long second. Madison wasn't the kind of woman you said no to when she had that look in her eyes. It wasn't manipulation, it was conviction. Like she saw something ahead of her that I couldn't. "All right," I said finally. "I'll keep an open mind." Her smile widened. "That's why I love you." She kissed me then, light and brief, like punctuation to an unfinished sentence. Later that night, as she fell asleep beside me, I lay awake listening to the rain outside. I should have felt content. Instead, there was a quiet buzz in my chest, a kind of unease I couldn't shake. She talked in her sleep sometimes. That night, she murmured a name. Not mine. Tyler. It was soft, almost tender. I told myself I misheard. In the morning, she was already up, humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like nothing happened. "Morning, handsome," she said cheerfully. I was thinking, what if we made the wedding more personal? Something that represents healing? Healing? I repeated, pouring coffee. She nodded, smiling too brightly. Yeah. You know, like closure. Growth. Starting fresh. I stared at her, the warmth from my mug doing nothing for the chill that ran down my spine. Sure, I said quietly. Whatever makes you happy. She kissed my cheek. That's my favorite answer. And just like that, the first crack appeared in what I thought was perfect. I didn't see it yet, but the foundation had already started to shake. I never imagined the word wedding could sound like a warning, but by that afternoon, it did. We were at the kitchen table surrounded by invitations, glue, and half-finished envelopes. Madison sat across from me, hair tied up, humming as she scribbled names with her perfect handwriting. "Do you think we should go with the gold seal or the white one?" she asked. "White," I said without looking up. "Gold feels too loud." She smiled faintly. "You always like quiet things. And you always find ways to make them complicated," I teased. She laughed, the sound light and practiced. Guilty. I didn't see it coming. It just slipped out of her mouth. "I was thinking," she said, licking the edge of an envelope, "Tyler should walk me down the aisle." The pen froze in my hand. "What?" She didn't even glance up. "My ex. It'll make better photos." I stared at her. "You're joking." "No," she said calmly, sealing another invitation. "It's symbolic. Like closure, you know? Full circle healing." "Closure?" I repeated, my voice sharper than I meant. "You want your ex to give you away at our wedding?" She sighed, finally looking up. "Jake, it's not what you think. It's not emotional, it's spiritual. Tyler was a huge part of my past, and letting him walk me down the aisle shows that I've moved beyond it." I blinked at her. "Or it shows that you've completely lost your mind." Her jaw tightened. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being dramatic?" I leaned back in my chair, trying to keep my tone calm. "Madison, you have a father. A family. Anyone else would make sense. But your ex?" She crossed her arms. "You don't understand. My dad doesn't get me. Tyler, he saw me grow. He knows the version of me I used to be." I almost laughed. "Yeah, the version who dated him." Her eyes narrowed. "See, that's the problem. You're still thinking traditionally. This wedding isn't just about two people joining lives, it's about evolution, growth, forgiveness." I ran a hand over my face. "You want forgiveness? Then forgive yourself quietly. Don't drag your ex into our wedding like it's an art exhibit." She exhaled through her nose. "You always think love is simple. It's not. It's not supposed to be complicated either," I shot back. "It's not supposed to involve the guy who used to sleep with my fiancée." "Jake," she said, her voice softening as if I was the one being unreasonable, "I thought you'd understand. You said you trusted me." "I did," I whispered. Past tense. Her eyes glistened. "Don't say that. Then don't ask me to sit front row while your ex plays father of the bride." She looked away, her voice trembling just enough to sound human again. "It's not about him, it's about me reclaiming my story." "Reclaiming it from what?" I asked quietly. "From shame. From the past. From being someone's mistake." Her words hit softer than I expected. For a moment, I almost believed her. She had that gift, wrapping absurdity in emotion until it sounded like enlightenment. "So you need him there," I said finally. She nodded slowly. "Yes. It's part of my healing." "And what about my healing?" Her expression flattened. "You'll be fine. You're emotionally grounded. That's what I love about you." That sentence, "that's what I love about you," felt less like affection and more like manipulation dressed as comfort. I tried one last time. "Madison, do you realize how this looks? How it makes me feel?" She touched my hand. "It makes you feel uncomfortable because it challenges the old idea of love. But Jake, love isn't ownership. It's freedom." I pulled my hand away. "No. Love is respect." She leaned closer. "Respect is letting me be who I am, even if it makes you uneasy." I stared at her, the woman I thought I knew, sitting there explaining betrayal as if it were philosophy. "Do you even hear yourself?" I said. She smiled faintly. "I do. And I'm proud of it. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, just a quiet fracture that only I could feel. You're really going to do this, I murmured. Yes, she said simply. And I need you to support me. Support you while you let another man walk you down the aisle to marry me. She nodded. Because you love me. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My mind replayed every laugh, every promise, every morning coffee we'd shared. It all felt suddenly foreign. Like someone else's memories. Madison, I whispered, you're asking for something I don't think any sane person could give. Her tone softened, pleading. Please. Just try to see it through my heart, not your ego. I looked at her for a long time, at the conviction in her eyes, the certainty that she was right, that she was enlightened while I was primitive for caring. Finally, I exhaled. You know what? Fine. Do what you need to do. She smiled, relief flooding her face. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. I forced a nod, my voice barely a whisper. Whatever you think is best. She leaned over and kissed my cheek before going back to the envelopes, humming again like nothing had happened. I sat there, staring at her handwriting, at the neat rows of names, families, friends, witnesses. All of them invited to watch me marry a woman who believed betrayal could be spiritual. Somewhere deep inside, something hollowed out. Not from rage, not even from heartbreak, just quiet realization. The version of love I believed in died that afternoon. And I didn't even fight to save it. I used to think every couple had ghosts in their story, old names that float in conversation and mean nothing. I told myself Tyler was one of those names. Just a ghost. But ghosts don't text at midnight. Jake, Madison said one evening, her phone lighting up on the couch beside her, Tyler's having a hard time again. I might call him for a bit, okay? I glanced from my book. A hard time? Yeah, just stuff. He's been going through therapy, and I've been helping him process. I frowned. You've been helping your ex process? She rolled her eyes. Don't make it sound weird. We're adults. It's called emotional maturity. Maturity, I echoed. Right. She sighed, setting her phone face down. You're jealous again. I'm not jealous, I said quietly. I'm confused. You said you two hadn't talked in months. She crossed her arms. People change, Jake. Healing doesn't have an expiration date. I wanted to argue, but she gave me that look, the one that said, you're overreacting. So I swallowed it. Fine. Just don't stay up too late. She smiled, pecked my cheek. You're the best. That night, I lay awake, hearing her muffled laughter through the wall. I told myself it was harmless. People laugh with friends. But the sound didn't feel friendly, it felt familiar, intimate. The next morning, she was humming while making coffee. You're quiet, she said. Did you talk to him long? Not really. Maybe an hour. An hour, I repeated. She smirked. You time my calls now? I'm just asking. Jake, she said softly, stepping closer, you know how much you mean to me, right? Tyler's just someone from a chapter I've already closed. Then why keep rereading it? I asked. Her smile faded. Wow. You really don't trust me, do you? It's not that. No, it is, she interrupted. You've never been this insecure before. Is something wrong? And there it was, turning my concern into a flaw. I felt small, defensive. I just want honesty, I muttered. You have it, she said, pressing her palm to my chest. But if you keep questioning me, I'll start feeling like I can't talk to you about anything. I nodded slowly. Okay. She kissed me. Good. Now let's not ruin our morning. I wish I'd listened to the silence between her words, the kind that hides truth beneath affection. A week later, she mentioned Tyler again while scrolling through her phone. He got a new job, she said casually. I'm proud of him. That's nice, I replied, forcing a smile. You two seem close. Don't be sarcastic, she said sharply. It's mean. I wasn't. Yes, you were. Her voice softened again. You're doing that thing where you sound supportive, but you're really not. I let out a long breath. Madison, do you still have feelings for him? She laughed, a little too loud. Wow. Straight to the deep end, huh? I'm asking seriously. No, Jake. I don't have feelings for him. But I care about people, even the ones who hurt me. That's called compassion. I stared at her, feeling like I was losing a game I didn't know I was playing. And I'm supposed to be okay with that? She reached for my hand. You're supposed to love me enough to trust me. I looked at her fingers wrapped around mine, warm and certain. I do trust you, I said quietly, though I didn't believe it. She smiled, triumphant. Then stop worrying. Tyler's just a part of who I used to be. You're who I'm becoming. I nodded, the words tasting hollow even as I said them. That night, she fell asleep with her phone on her chest. I saw the notification glow. Tyler, you always know what to say. My stomach sank, but I didn't open it. I couldn't. Because if I did, I'd have to face what I already knew. Instead, I whispered to the dark, you don't question the person you plan to marry. You trust them, even when it hurts. It was the lie that kept me sane. And the truth that would soon break me. Jake, can we just talk about this calmly? Madison said, her voice soft, practiced. She sat cross-legged on the couch, one hand twirling her hair like she always did when she wanted to seem gentle. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I am calm, Madison. I just don't understand why your ex needs to walk you down the aisle. It's not normal. It's not about being normal, she said quickly. It's about closure. About transforming something painful into something beautiful. Don't you see that? I let out a slow breath. No, I don't. I see a guy who used to be your boyfriend now standing beside you on our wedding day. You call that closure? She sighed, smiling faintly as if I were a child who didn't get the lesson. You're so traditional sometimes. Tyler and I went through a lot, and we ended on weird terms. This, she gestured vaguely in the air, is symbolic healing. Symbolic, I repeated. That's what we're calling it now. She frowned. Why are you being sarcastic? You said you trusted me. I do, I said, though even I could hear how hollow it sounded. But trusting you doesn't mean pretending this makes sense. Madison stood up, closing the space between us. Her perfume hit first, sweet, heavy. She placed her hand on my arm. Jake, you're secure. You're grounded. That's why I love you. Tyler's just part of my past. Letting him do this shows how much I've healed. How much we've grown. We? I asked quietly. I don't remember signing up for spiritual therapy on my wedding day. She rolled her eyes. You're twisting this. You're making it sound ugly when it's actually beautiful. It's not about him, it's about what he represents. You always said you wanted me to be happy, right? Of course, I said. Then let me have this moment. Please. Her voice softened into that pleading tone that made saying no feel like cruelty. You're the only person who really understands me, Jake. You're the only one who wouldn't get threatened by something like this. I stared at her, feeling the words land like weight. So if I say I'm uncomfortable, that means I don't understand you? It means you're letting fear talk. I don't want that energy at our wedding. It's supposed to be sacred. I looked at her hand still resting on mine, and for a second, I thought about pulling away. But then she smiled, relieved that I hadn't. See, she said softly. You're different. You're not like other guys. I almost laughed. Yeah. Clearly not. She tilted her head, searching my face. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I muttered. You're just good at convincing people. She laughed lightly, missing the bitterness in my tone. You say that like it's a bad thing. It's not, I said. It's just effective. Jake, she said gently, I need your support. This means everything to me. Don't make it a fight. The word sank deep, dull and slow. I'd been here before, watching her frame my resistance as selfishness. I could already feel my own voice folding in on itself. "All right," I said finally. "If this is what you want." Her face lit up instantly. "Really? You mean it?" "Yeah," I whispered, forcing a smile. "Whatever you think is best." She threw her arms around me. "You're amazing," she said into my shoulder. "You're so mature, Jake. Tyler said you'd never go for it, but I told him you were evolved." Something cracked inside me then, something small and final. I stood there, arms around her, nodding like a man agreeing to his own undoing. If this is what she wants, I told myself quietly, then I'll make it work. But the words tasted empty. And for the first time, I couldn't feel my heartbeat at all. Curiosity isn't innocent. It pretends to be. It whispers, just one quick search. That's how it started, me at my desk, half-finished coffee beside my laptop, typing Tyler Morrison into Google like I wasn't crossing some invisible line. The first few links were harmless. A couple of old sports photos, a LinkedIn page that hadn't been updated since 2021, and then, something. Tyler Morrison and Carmen Rodriguez wedding photography. I clicked before I could stop myself. There they were, smiling, perfect, the picture of stability. And yet, the caption said, co-founder and creative director, not husband and wife. I scrolled down. Another article mentioned their recent separation. I muttered to myself, well, that didn't age well. Then it hit me, Carmen Morrison, wedding coordinator and photographer. The irony nearly made me laugh. What if I hired Tyler's ex-wife to plan my wedding? I opened her business site. It was clean, minimalist, all muted tones and poetic quotes about love surviving storms. "Sure," I murmured, "you'd know about storms." Before I could talk myself out of it, I clicked contact. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Hi, Carmen, I'm looking for a wedding coordinator available next month." I paused. Too vague. I added, "I've heard great things about your work." Then, after a long breath, I hit send. 5 minutes later, a reply popped up. "Hi Jake, thank you for reaching out. I'd love to chat more about your wedding details. When would be a good time to call?" I stared at her signature, Carmen Rodriguez Morrison, founder, Everlight Weddings. The woman Tyler had once promised forever to. The woman who might know what kind of man he really was. When my phone rang, I almost didn't answer. But curiosity had already won. "Hi, this is Carmen," came a calm, confident voice. "Hey, Carmen." "Jake speaking," I said, trying to sound normal. "Thanks for getting back so fast." "Of course," she said warmly. "Tell me a bit about the event, how big, the date, venue, style. I like to understand the couple's vision first." Couple. The word hit a little too hard. "Yeah, it's next month. My fiancée, Madison, and I are finalizing details. Just wanted a professional touch." "Madison," she repeated thoughtfully. "Lovely name. Is she with you?" I usually prefer to speak to both partners. "She's, out right now," I said quickly. "She's handling decor stuff. I'm handling logistics." "Smart division of labor," she said with a chuckle. "So what are you envisioning for the day?" I hesitated. Talking about my own wedding suddenly felt absurd. Honestly, I just want it simple. Peaceful. Nothing over the top. "Peaceful is underrated," she said softly. "Weddings can bring out sides of people you didn't know existed." That line lingered. "You sound like you speak from experience." She laughed lightly. "Don't we all? But yes, I've seen a few complicated love stories." "Ever had to plan one where the bride's ex was still in the picture?" I asked casually, watching the cursor blink on my laptop screen as if waiting for her reaction. She paused for half a beat. "That's oddly specific." "Just curious," I said, pretending to sound amused. "People these days are into symbolic gestures, you know?" "Oh, I know," she said. "Usually ends badly. Symbolism doesn't photograph as well as people think." I smiled despite myself. "Good to know. You've probably seen it all, huh?" More than I wanted to, she admitted. But that's the job. Love, chaos, tears, it's all part of the show. There was a silence that felt strangely familiar, two people quietly acknowledging something broken. So, she said briskly, shifting tone, should I pencil you in for a consultation? Yeah, I said. That'd be great. Maybe next Tuesday. Perfect. Send me your venue details, and we'll start from there. Will do. Thanks, Carmen. My pleasure, Jake. Talk soon. The call ended, and I sat there staring at my phone. My reflection on the black screen looked like someone I didn't fully recognize. I wasn't just planning a wedding anymore, I was plotting an investigation. Madison's words echoed in my head, it's symbolic healing. Maybe. Or maybe it was manipulation dressed in poetry. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. I just hired my fiancée's ex's ex-wife. If anyone could expose the truth, it was the woman who'd already lived it. I arrived 10 minutes early. The cafe smelled like roasted beans and rain-soaked pavement. My hands wouldn't stay still, so I kept adjusting the sugar packets on the table. I told myself this was business, just a meeting. Not an ambush. Not curiosity wearing a polite mask. Then she walked in. Carmen Rodriguez Morrison. Graceful, poised, and somehow tired in a way that wasn't physical. Jake? She asked, smiling with professional warmth. That's me, I said, standing quickly. Thanks for meeting on short notice. Of course, she said, taking a seat across from me. Coffee's my second office. What are we thinking, rustic, modern, minimalist? I chuckled nervously. Whatever makes us look like we have our lives together. She smiled. So, modern. I laughed, and for a while, it felt surprisingly easy. She pulled out a sleek tablet, scrolling through venues and decor options. Her tone was smooth, practiced. Do you already have a venue booked? She asked. Yeah, the Lakeview Garden Hall. Madison picked it. Good choice. I've worked there a few times. Lighting's great for photos. We talked colors, seating, floral arrangements. She was good, too good. Calm, efficient, thoughtful. Tell me about Madison, she said finally, tapping a note. She's passionate, I said, searching for the right word. Love symbolism, big gestures, everything with meaning. Carmen nodded slowly. Sounds like a creative soul. She is, I said. Sometimes too creative for me. Her eyes flicked up, amused. That sounds like love or exhaustion. Both, I said honestly. She smiled faintly. Fair enough. The conversation drifted between logistics and laughter. I almost forgot why I was there, until I heard myself say it. She used to date a guy named Tyler Morrison. It slipped out like an accident, but I'd rehearsed it in my head all morning. Carmen's pen stopped mid-note. Her head lifted slightly. I'm sorry, what was that name? Tyler. Tyler Morrison, I said, watching her carefully. Do you know him? Silence stretched between us. Her eyes didn't blink for a moment too long. Then she smiled, a small, professional curve that didn't reach her eyes. The name sounds familiar, she said quietly. I leaned back, pretending not to notice the tremor in her hand before she set the pen down. He's Madison's ex, I said. Apparently they had this deep emotional history or something. She still talks about him sometimes. Carmen folded her hands together. That must be interesting. You could say that. She inhaled through her nose, then exhaled softly, her eyes drifting toward the window. Funny how small the world is. Yeah, I said, my tone light but my pulse heavy. Almost like the universe enjoys awkward reunions. A soft laugh escaped her. You have no idea. For a while, we didn't talk. The coffee machine hissed in the background. Somewhere, someone dropped a spoon. She finally spoke again, her voice steady but lower. So, Madison wants this wedding to be symbolic, you said? Yeah. She's calling it her emotional evolution. Carmen's eyes flickered with recognition. Of course she is. You sound like you've heard that line before, I said. Once or twice, she said, taking a slow sip of coffee. Her composure was almost eerie. I could feel her calculating, connecting dots. So, she said lightly, is this Tyler guy still around? Apparently. Madison says he should walk her down the aisle. Says it's healing or something. Carmen didn't respond right away. She stared into her cup, her reflection warping in the surface. When she looked up again, her eyes were colder, beautiful, but sharp like glass. She wants her ex to walk her down the aisle, she repeated softly. How poetic. That's one word for it, I muttered. Jake, she said suddenly, her tone softer, almost kind. Do you really want that? I hesitated. I want her to be happy. Even if I don't understand it. She studied me like I was a puzzle she'd already solved. You're either very patient or very in love. Maybe both, I said quietly. She tilted her head. Or maybe you're scared to lose her. That one hit harder than I wanted to admit. Probably, I said. But I'm starting to wonder if I already have. Something flickered in her expression, empathy, anger, maybe both. Then she leaned forward slightly. Jake, do you know how long they were together? About 2 years, I think, I said. She says they ended things because he couldn't commit. Carmen's lips curved into something like a smirk. He couldn't commit, she repeated slowly. That's one way to put it. I waited for her to elaborate, but she didn't. Instead, she picked up her pen again, the mask sliding neatly back into place. Well, she said briskly, I think we can work something wonderful out. I'd love to coordinate your wedding. Her tone was calm again, but her eyes burned with something new, purpose. Really? I asked cautiously. You're sure? Oh, absolutely, she said, her voice light but razor-edged beneath the surface. It sounds like a fascinating project. I hesitated. You don't think it's weird? You seem a little surprised, that's all. She smiled thinly. Surprised? Maybe. Weird? Not at all. Life's funny like that. Funny? I asked. She leaned back, sipping her coffee one last time. People always circle back to what they think they've outgrown. Some just need help seeing what they left behind. Her gaze met mine, steady, knowing, almost predatory. So yes, Jake, she said, her voice turning soft, deliberate. I'd be absolutely thrilled to coordinate your wedding. The way she said thrilled made the air feel heavier. I nodded, forcing a small smile. Then it's a deal. Carmen's smile widened a fraction. It certainly is. 3 days passed in uneasy silence. Madison acted like nothing was wrong, laughing over dinner, humming while scrolling through centerpiece options. I played along, but every smile I gave her felt borrowed. Then Carmen called. Her voice was trembling. Jake, we need to talk. Now. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. Where? The same cafe. 10 minutes. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting in the corner booth, her hands clenched around a manila folder. No coffee this time. No small talk. Just tension hanging thick in the air. What's going on? I asked quietly, sliding into the seat. She pushed the folder toward me. I wasn't sure if I should show you this. But you deserve to know. What is it? Letters, she said. Emails. Messages. Everything. I stared at the folder like it might explode. From who? Tyler, she said softly. To Madison. And from her to him. The sound of her name hit me like a slap. I hesitated, then opened the folder. Inside were printed pages, some handwritten notes, even photos of texts. Carmen's voice was steady now, controlled. I found them when I was finalizing the divorce paperwork. I didn't want to believe it, but when you mentioned her name. I checked. She's the same Madison. The one he told me he was just helping heal. I flipped through the first page. I still see you when I close my eyes. You said you'd moved on, but you never left me. My throat tightened. The next page was worse. Last night felt like forgiveness. Let's not tell anyone, we both deserve peace. I whispered, when was this? Carmen reached over, pointing at a date. 2 months ago. 2 months, I stopped. 2 months ago, we were already engaged. She nodded slowly. He told me they were just talking about closure. He said it was therapy. I was stupid enough to believe him. I looked at her, at the exhaustion behind her eyes. You didn't deserve that. Neither did you, she said sharply. Look at this one. She handed me another sheet, an email thread. Madison, I wish things were different. Sometimes I think about what our wedding would have been like. Tyler, maybe one day we'll finish what we started. My hands shook. She was planning a wedding with me while fantasizing about him. She was keeping both worlds alive, Carmen said bitterly. He called it emotional honesty. I called it manipulation. I swallowed hard. Why are you showing me this now? Because I need you to understand what kind of people they are, she said. They feed off guilt. Off sympathy. He used to tell me she was fragile. That she needed him to make peace with her past. I thought it was noble. And now? Now I know it was lust dressed up as therapy. I exhaled shakily, scanning more letters. There were lines about hotel rooms, about just one last talk, about finding closure under the stars. This can't be real, I said weakly. Oh, it's real, she said. He was writing those while still married to me. And you're Madison? She knew. She sent him a picture from her fitting, said she wished it was his last name on the tag. My stomach turned. She told me that dress made her feel like a new person. Carmen let out a dry laugh. Maybe it made her feel like both of ours. I shut the folder and pressed my palms against my face. I don't even know what to do with this. You don't have to do anything yet, she said. Just know the truth. I looked up at her. Did you ever confront him? Once, she said quietly. He cried. Said it meant nothing. Said he was just helping her move on. And like an idiot, I believed him, for another month. Until I caught him sending her songs. I shook my head. Madison said those songs reminded her of growth. She played them while writing vows. Carmen's expression hardened. He told me those songs reminded him of sin. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The world outside moved like nothing had changed, people sipping coffee, rain starting to fall again. Finally, I asked, did you ever think about getting even? She looked at me, her eyes sharp but calm. I used to. Now I just want peace. But peace doesn't come from pretending. I nodded slowly. You're right. She pushed the folder closer. Take it. You might need it someday. I don't even know if I want to read more. Then don't. But don't let her rewrite the story later. I stared at the pages again, each one proof that love could rot quietly while smiling on the surface. Carmen's voice softened. You look like a man who's been holding his breath for too long. I guess I have, I said. I thought she was my safe place. She's not, Carmen said firmly. She's his habit. That line landed like a punch. She told me they were done, I whispered. That he was just part of her past. Carmen's expression turned pitying. Jake, they never stopped. The cafe buzzed faintly in the background, but I barely heard it. I was staring at the evidence, the ink, the timestamps, the stupid hearts at the end of every message. They never stopped, did they? I asked, my voice barely audible. Carmen just shook her head, silent. And that silence said everything I didn't want to hear. Carmen arrived 5 minutes before me, her coffee untouched, eyes sharp but calm. Morning, I said, forcing a smile. Busy week ahead. Always, she replied, matching my tone. Especially when we're planning the wedding of the century. I sat down, placing my notes on the table. Madison wants the ceremony to feel symbolic. Her word, not mine. Carmen's lips curved faintly. Symbolic of what, exactly? Of love that conquers all, I said, bitterness slipping through before I caught it. Ah, she murmured. The kind of love that survives everything. Even inconvenient truths. Her calmness unnerved me. You sure you're okay doing this? I'm not just okay, she said softly. I'm inspired. I studied her face, perfectly composed, too still. Inspired by what? By irony, she said, eyes glinting. And timing. We both laughed, low, dry, and humorless. So, she continued, flipping open her planner, Madison mentioned a walk. Something meaningful. Yeah, I said. She wants to walk down the aisle barefoot. Says it symbolizes purity. Carmen raised an eyebrow. Purity. That's rich. She even wants white rose petals scattered on the path. Of course she does, Carmen said. Every liar loves a clean stage. I stared at the table. You don't think she suspects anything? Carmen shook her head. No. She's too wrapped up in her performance. Tyler too, probably rehearsing his lines for the perfect husband act. Guess we'll both be watching a show, then, I said. Front row seats, she replied. No interruptions. Just truth unfolding. For a moment, silence stretched between us, not awkward, just heavy. Shared understanding. I finally said, I keep wondering how long they've planned their lies. She looked out the window. Does it matter? They've already written their ending. We're just designing the stage. You make it sound poetic. It is, she said. Poetic justice, Jake. That's the only kind that feels clean. I exhaled slowly. You really think we can do this? Pretend? Yes, she said simply. Because pretending is what they taught us best. Her words landed harder than I expected. I nodded. All right. Then we let the wedding happen exactly as they want it. Exactly, she said. Every detail, every vow, every perfect smile. We'll give them their dream. And then? Then, she said, leaning in, we let the truth speak for itself. I tapped my pen against the notebook. Madison wants the vows written by hand. She says it feels more real. Of course, Carmen said. Nothing says sincerity like scripted lies in cursive. I almost laughed, then stopped myself. You're good at this. I've had practice, she said. You learn to smile while drowning. There was a pause before I whispered, she's been talking about him a lot lately. Tyler helped her heal, she said. I thought she meant emotionally. She meant physically, Carmen said flatly. Don't let her rewrite it. Her voice didn't shake, but her fingers clenched around the coffee cup. I noticed, then looked away. What about decorations? I asked, shifting the topic. She mentioned soft lighting, lots of candles. Romantic, Carmen said. Perfect for revealing shadows. And the music? She picked a piano version of Can't Help Falling in Love. Carmen smirked. How fitting. Falling, indeed. We shared another brief silence, this one almost peaceful. I'll handle logistics, she said. You just, play the loving fiancé. I can do that, I said, though my stomach turned. She won't see it coming. Neither will he, Carmen replied. That's the beauty of quiet revenge, it never announces itself. I met her gaze. We're really doing this. Yes, she said. But no yelling, no scenes. Just, elegance. Cold elegance, I said. The best kind, she murmured. We finalized details, guest lists, floral arrangements, venue lighting, every choice suddenly feeling like part of something bigger. Something precise. When we stood to leave, Carmen touched my arm lightly. One rule, she said. What's that? No tears, she whispered. Not until it's over. I nodded. Agreed. As we walked out, Madison's text buzzed on my phone, can't wait to see the mock-up, babe. Carmen's amazing. I showed it to her. Carmen read it, then smiled thinly. Oh, Jake, she said, voice steady but eyes fierce. I'll make sure your wedding is unforgettable. Her heels clicked on the tile as she walked away, rhythmic, deliberate, like a countdown. I watched her go, the faint smell of coffee and tension hanging in the air, and whispered to myself, so will I. The rehearsal hall smelled like flowers and tension. I stood near the aisle, pretending to check the lighting, pretending not to see Madison laugh at something Tyler whispered. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Carmen caught my eye from across the room, calm, collected, unreadable. "Jake," Madison called, all sunshine and nerves. "Can you believe tomorrow's the big day?" "Hard to believe," I said evenly. "Everything looks perfect." She beamed. "Carmen's been a lifesaver. Honestly, we couldn't have done this without her." Carmen smiled. "I do love bringing people together." Tyler chuckled. "You've done an amazing job." "I try," she said. "It's not every day I get to coordinate something so intimate." Her tone was light, but there was a flicker underneath. I caught it. Tyler didn't. Madison turned to her. "You're a miracle worker, Carmen. Everything's flawless." Carmen nodded slowly. "Flawless takes practice. Especially when you're staging something beautiful over something broken." Madison blinked, confused. "I'm sorry." "Nothing," Carmen said with a small smile. "Just thinking out loud." The photographer adjusted his lens. "Can we get a few test shots of the couple by the altar?" "Of course," Carmen said smoothly. "Let's capture their best angles." Madison giggled, looping her arm through Tyler's. "You're so good at this." "I've had experience," Carmen murmured. "Plenty of practice posing for pictures that meant nothing in the end." Tyler shifted. What's that supposed to mean?" "Relax," she said. "I was talking about my past work." Her calmness was surgical, controlled, deliberate. My heart started to pound. "Jake," she said suddenly, turning to me. "Why don't you join them? A preview of tomorrow's magic." I shook my head. "I'll watch. I want to see how it all looks." "Suit yourself." She positioned them carefully, adjusting Madison's veil, brushing imaginary dust from Tyler's jacket. "Perfect," she whispered. "The man who lies beautifully, and the woman who believes him completely." Madison froze. "Excuse me?" Carmen straightened up. "Oh, don't look so startled. You wanted a fairy tale moment, didn't you? Here it is." Tyler stepped back. "Carmen, what the hell are you doing?" She smiled sweetly. "Being honest." Finally. The photographer lowered his camera, uncertain. The coordinator at the door stopped mid-step. The air thickened. "I wanted to make sure," Carmen said softly, eyes locked on Madison, "that the woman who ruined my marriage got the pictures she always dreamed of." The words hit like a glass shattering in slow motion. Madison's mouth opened but no sound came. Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, come on," Carmen said, voice still calm. "You really thought I wouldn't find out?" Years of emails, secret hotels, coded messages. Tyler wasn't as careful as he thought. Tyler raised his hands. "Carmen, you're overreacting." It wasn't overreacting. Her tone sharpened, cutting through the room. "You slept with her. You wrote her love letters while I was home planning our anniversary." "Carmen, stop," "No," she said, voice trembling only slightly now. "You stop pretending." Madison's eyes flicked to me, desperate. "Jake, she's lying." I just stared. My throat felt dry. "I've seen the letters." Her face crumpled. "Jake, it wasn't like that. Tyler was just helping me, helping you heal." Carmen finished for her. "Yes, I remember that line." The silence that followed was suffocating. The florist stood frozen, someone's phone buzzed quietly and then went still. Tyler moved toward Carmen. "You didn't have to do this here." "Oh, I did," she said coldly. "Because this is where you both planned to lie to everyone again. I just thought honesty deserved a better stage." Madison's hands shook. "You're humiliating us." "No," Carmen said softly. "You did that yourselves." I took a slow step back, my pulse hammering. Madison turned to me, tears spilling. Jake, please, don't, I whispered. Don't say my name. Carmen looked at me. Go, Jake. You've already seen enough. Tyler tried to grab her arm. You think this makes you better? She yanked free. No. Just free. Their argument grew distant as I walked toward the doors. My heartbeat was so loud I barely heard anything else, their voices fading, sharp and desperate, echoing behind me. Jake! Madison called. Please, wait. I didn't. I pushed open the heavy doors, stepping into the corridor filled with the faint hum of music from another hall. My reflection in the glass looked calm, but my chest burned. Carmen's last words echoed in my head, the woman who ruined my marriage. And mine. Outside, the air was cool. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes. For a second, I listened, distant shouting, muffled sobs, the photographer quietly packing up equipment. It didn't feel like victory. Just release. The truth had finally spilled, and with it, the weight I'd been carrying for months. I could still hear Madison crying inside, Tyler's voice cracking with excuses, Carmen standing tall among the wreckage she'd chosen to burn down. I walked away, step by step, feeling the silence grow louder around me. By the time I reached the parking lot, the noise was gone. Only my heartbeat remained, steady, hollow, final. It didn't sound like revenge. It sounded like goodbye. It's strange how silence can feel heavier than shouting. Weeks passed after the wedding that wasn't, and the world didn't fall apart, it just kept spinning. My mornings looked the same. Coffee. Work. Traffic. But something in me had shifted, like a window had finally opened after months of stale air. Madison texted the first time 3 days later. Jake, please. I just need to explain. I didn't reply. Then came the email, long, tearful paragraphs about confusion, therapy, emotional healing, and how she'd been searching for closure in all the wrong places. I read it twice, not because I cared to understand, but because I wanted to see if she'd say sorry without justifying herself. She didn't. When my phone buzzed again that night, I let it ring. Hey, it's me, her voicemail began. I don't even know where to start, but I'm so sorry. I was lost, Jake. I thought I needed to heal. I didn't mean to hurt you. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. I listened once, then deleted it. For days after, the silence felt louder. I'd wake up and half expect to see her hair on my pillow, her laugh filling the kitchen, her half-finished mug on the counter. Instead, there was just me, my reflection, and a quiet apartment that finally told the truth. One night, I dreamed about her, not the version that lied, but the one from years ago, barefoot in the rain, daring me to dance. I woke up smiling, not hurting. That's when I knew the wound was healing. Carmen called me a week later. Hey, she said. Just checking in. Thanks, I replied. How are you holding up? Better, she said softly. The first few days were rough. But, honestly, I'm proud of how it ended. I hesitated. You mean the explosion? She laughed quietly. No, the honesty. I didn't scream, didn't beg. I just told the truth. And for once, it was enough. I smiled. You handled it with more grace than I ever could. Grace is easier when you've already cried every tear, she said. How about you? I'm learning how to breathe again, I said. One deep breath at a time. That's a good start. We talked a few more minutes, about nothing, about everything. Then she said, I've started taking new clients again. Real ones this time. That's great, I said. You deserve it. And you? I'm just working, I said. Keeping busy. Trying not to think too much. She paused. You don't have to pretend it didn't hurt. I'm not pretending, I said quietly. I'm just choosing peace over pain. She didn't reply right away. Then softly, you sound like you mean that. For the first time, I do. Months passed. Seasons changed. Madison's name stopped showing up in my notifications. The ache dulled into a distant echo, something I could look at without flinching. One evening in late spring, I wandered into a downtown hotel lobby for a corporate event. The moment I walked in, I froze. There she was, Carmen, directing staff, her clipboard tucked under one arm, headset in place. She turned, spotted me, and smiled. "Jake." "Carmen," I said, returning the smile. "Running the place again, I see." "Trying to," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You here for the tech conference?" "Yeah. My company's sponsoring a booth." Her eyes softened. "You look better." "So do you." We stood there for a moment, surrounded by the low hum of conversation and clinking glasses. Then she nodded toward a table half shoved against the wall. "I could use an extra hand, if you're offering." I chuckled. "Sure." We lifted the table together, sliding it into place. Our hands brushed once, not with tension, but with quiet understanding. "Funny," she said after a pause. "The last time we were in a room together, there were flowers and broken hearts everywhere." I smiled faintly. "This one smells better." She laughed, really laughed this time, light and genuine. "Do you ever think about it?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said honestly. "But not the way I used to." "Me neither," she said. "I think some stories just end differently than we expect." "Yeah," I said. "Sometimes you don't get the closure you imagined. You just learn to live without it." Carmen looked at me for a long moment. "That sounds like acceptance." "Maybe it is." The coordinator called her name, and she straightened. "Duty calls." "Go save the evening," I said. She smiled. "And you, keep breathing." I watched her walk away, weaving through tables, giving orders with calm authority. She looked alive, not surviving anymore, but living. When I left the hotel, the night air felt warm, the city alive with sounds I hadn't noticed in months, laughter, car horns, the rhythm of life continuing. I thought about Madison one last time. I didn't hate her. I didn't miss her. I just understood that some people are lessons disguised as love stories. And that some lessons don't come wrapped in closure. They come dressed in wedding white, holding someone else's hand, teaching you how to finally let go.